excited to welcome for the first time to this show Gary Mayerson. And he's a civil rights attorney. He founded Mayerson Associates in the early 2000s. They were the very first civil rights law firm in the nation dedicated to representing individuals with autism and related disorders. And to date, they have represented over 1,000 individuals in more than 30 states, including Alaska. So we're thrilled to have him here with us. We also want to mention that Gary serves on the National Board for Autism Speaks, on the boards of JobPath, Manhattan Children's Center Foundation, and ALUT, Israel's largest autism nonprofit. So Gary, what a thrill to have you here with us. Thank you so much for being willing to be with us.
Thank you for having me.
It's our pleasure, really. And I understand that part of how this came about is because you have a family member who is on the autism spectrum.
Yes, I found out, yes, I do have a family member with autism, and that's how I got started some 20 years ago plus. And I found that so many people in the field have some personal connection with the world of autism, and I'm no exception. I'm part of the club.
Absolutely. And we're excited to have you with us today to talk a little bit about the legal aspect of rights. We know that as we're getting ready to enter the month of October already, I can't believe that, but October is Bullying Prevention Month. This is a particular interest to all of us. Talk a little bit with us about the connection with autism and bullying and what our legal rights are and some things that we can be looking out for.
Sure, Shannon. Well, first of all, people with autism, I should say students with autism, are probably 3 or 4 times as likely to be bullied than a typically developing student. That makes a little sense because people with autism are more vulnerable, and from the perspective of the bully, they make perfect victims, so to speak. So the problem is tremendous in terms of what's out there statistically. Last year, our firm had the landmark decision from the Second Circuit Court of Appeals on bullying, which is called TK versus New York City Department of Education. And the takeaway from that case is that, number one, students have a right to be free from physical or psychological abuse at school. It would sound to be common sense, but a court actually had to find that. And when the parents raise bullying as a problem at the school district, the school must talk to them about it. In this TK case, the school district had absolutely refused and repeatedly refused to talk about bullying, so it was never going to get better. So now parents and school districts parents have a right to expect that if they raise bullying or the concern of bullying with the school district has to have a meeting with them to talk about it.
It's so interesting because there have been so many movements about anti-bullying. And I think a lot of us, my son's in 8th grade now, we started our kids off into school thinking that this kind of thing, we heard zero tolerance all over the place. Oh, this school has zero tolerance for bullying. But that is such a difference than the experience than so many people have, because suddenly, and I've heard from so many parents who describe exactly what you're talking about with this little girl that, they go to the school and they say, oh, my child's being bullied. And the school says, well, we can't talk to you about it because we can't talk about the other kid. We can't tell you what we did about it. It becomes a very frustrating thing. So thrilled that you've got this landmark case. But now maybe you could tell us a little bit, Gary, give us some tips for parents who suspect that their child might be getting bullied at school. What should we be doing?
Well, first of all, when you talk about parents suspecting that there's bullying going on, there's usually some kind of signs. Does your child fail to get dressed on time all of a sudden and doesn't want to go to school? Does your child have a stomach ache repeatedly, day after day? Does your child tell you they don't want to go to school and they don't give you a reason why? I mean, parents sometimes have to really dig quite a bit to find out what's really going on and what the root cause is, which is bullying. Sometimes children will not come out and say, because they feel embarrassed, I'm being bullied at school, or someone's taunting me or kicking me or bothering me.
And I love that you're bringing that up, Gary, because for a lot of our viewers, our kids, part of their area of disability is around language. So getting language out of them to talk about it, and some of them are nonverbal. But I love you describing some of the behaviors. We've talked before on the show about a nonverbal young man who would hide his shoes because he didn't want to go to school. When we see those behaviors of them avoiding the school, it really needs to be a red flag for us. I love that you're putting that out there, because a lot of times we think, oh, they just don't like school, but You really got to dig, as you said.
Well, the TK case, the particular child at issue, and of course we're not going to use names, but this child had put on probably 40, 45 pounds in the year in question, had missed school 46 times either by latenesses or absences. That's a tremendous amount of latenesses and absences. That's a huge red flag. And was telling the parents, I don't want to go to school, but this child, thank God, was verbal enough to be able to explain exactly what was going on at school, identify the perpetrator, and give the parents something to go on to try to meet with the school principal. Unfortunately, this school principal refused to even meet with the parents. And part of the reason why is because she said, we have a zero tolerance policy. There can't possibly be bullying going on here because of our policy.
It makes me want to break out into hives, because I hear this story all the time, and I'm sure that you do as well. So again, back to the tips for parents. If you're seeing these kinds of behaviors and you're starting to dig to find out more, if you discover that something's going on, that your child is being bullied, what do we do?
Well, the first thing I would do if I were a parent and I had some of these danger signs is I would call for a meeting with the teacher, and I would ask the teacher if they saw any of these same signs. If you got a chance to meet, if there's an aide in the classroom or a see-it in the classroom, I probably would ask the see-it or the aide the same questions if you were permitted to. If I didn't get any satisfactory answers from the school teacher, or if I was getting confirmation from the teacher, I probably would request an IEP meeting to discuss the bullying and figure out what kind of an anti-bullying plan could be presented in the IEP itself to protect my child from future bullying situations. And there's so many things that can be done. The one thing you don't want to do is take the child who's the victim and move that child as if you're punishing that child. You don't want to do anything that looks like to the child that's the victim that you're punishing that child. You want to do, if you're going to punish anyone or remove someone from the scene, it should be the perpetrator.
Yeah, this is all really good advice. I love, we have to be diligent and work that chain of command and talk to people. Do you also recommend, Gary, that we document every single thing that we do along the way?
By all means. Not only should you document all your requests, you should write, and emails are fine, by the way, but you should also ask the school district if you suspect bullying for something called incident reports. The school district is absolutely required in any incident of any kind of physical or other kind of altercation to write up an incident report. They maintain them in the administration office. You should ask for the incident reports, and you should do so in writing. And you should, if you feel that you want to do so periodically to make sure that you get all of them, you should do that as well.
And what happens, Gary, if our child alleges that something happened, and I've experienced this myself, where the teacher says, well, I didn't see it, and the aide didn't see it, and I talked to one of the other kids and they didn't see it, so I didn't write up an incident report.
Well, that can happen, and it probably will happen from time to time, but hopefully these incident reports will establish some kind of a pattern. In the TK case, they did. There were over a half a dozen incident reports which the parents had requested while the child was attending. The school district principal failed to provide those incident reports, and I should tell you, although I'm not going to curse on your show, that the school principal, when we finally got her to be examined at a deposition, her court-ordered deposition because she didn't want to come, she referred to the incident reports. Mind you, this is a public school principal of an elementary school. She referred to the incident reports as the, quote, the effing incident reports. I kid you not.
Well, I hope she's not employed anymore.
No, she's still the principal of this particular school, which is quite shocking to me and some other people as well.
Yes, unbelievable. Okay, so, but working that chain of command, making sure that you're asking for the incident reports, sending emails and documenting when you've asked for something, super duper important, but it's never the right thing to just let it go, because I find that's when things escalate. Do you find that as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like wine that gets better with time. A bullying situation will only get worse over time. You also may want to offer your child counseling, not counseling necessarily in school, because there's maybe a conflict there, but counseling outside, so that hopefully your child will open up and talk and really tell what's going on in school, perhaps more easily to someone who's a third party. You also may want to send in an educational consultant to observe the school situation if they'll allow it, to see what the dynamics of the classroom are. Perhaps if an educational consultant goes into the classroom once or twice, they might see some of these friction points that are causing the bullying.
Absolutely. I love all of these tips. And Gary, how about if you give your website too? Because if somebody feels that they've got a case, that things have escalated to the point where they need legal help, tell them what your website is so that they can talk to somebody in your law firm.
Sure. Unfortunately, we have several bullying cases pending right at the moment. There seem to be way too many of them out there. Our website is www.mayerslaw.com, spelled MAYERSLAW.com.
And we've got that in a lower third on the screen right now. So definitely, I'm always somebody who says, we don't want to make everything contentious, but when it comes to our child's safety when going to school, that's the time when you want it to be contentious. If you need to lawyer up, lawyer up. It lets the school know that you mean business and that your child's safety is number one to you and that it should be to them and that you're going to hold their feet to that fire.